welcome to Viewpoint, your program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. And we certainly have a nice personalities with us this morning, and a perspective on education, and I think it's a very, very important perspective. As always, we'll start out with a kudo or two. I'd just like to drop a kudo in the box of the hat of the folks at the VFW who put on a little fundraiser last week, had an auction and so forth. I hope it went very well, and I do not know the results, but it was for the benefit of the honor flight, and that's a cause near and dear to my heart, having taken that and been participating in it ever since then. So kudos to the VFW folks. And Mrs. Busby, you have something that you wish to discuss before we move on to the important matters of the day?
Yes, we have from time to time discussed the Creekside place. Now, that's a funny thing that I said that, because here they always say creek, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's Creekside, yeah. Do you think it's Creekside?
We always said creek.
I-C or double E. You take your pick.
I think they spelled it creek on
In
this
Minnesota, we say crick. But we say aunt instead of aunt, too. So I guess you two people talk funny. I think I'll pass the buck there. Anyway, they're having a festival this weekend, and it's from 10 to 4 on Saturday at the Creekside. And at 10:30 a.m., there will be a dedication of the Bill and Jean Gossett Tallgrass Prairie area, which is very nice, and very nice for Bill. He's been very active in that. And also then at 10:45, Pete Fredericks. I think everybody knows Pete Fredericks. Used to have Pete's Hardware.
Right.
Yes.
Two short guys, Pete and Bill.
And he built that little log cabin that was behind Jefferson School for the kids there, and they had a little garden and so forth. Well, now Jefferson isn't going to be a part of District 27 anymore, so they're going to dedicate that little log cabin out there at the Creekside. What a perfect place for it.
Yeah, great location, and we're so thankful to have worked with Dr. Campbell and getting that transported out to its new home. And
yeah, that worked really well.
Couldn't have asked for a better situation once we decided to move forward with selling the Jefferson building to the city. Yeah.
Optimal. Well, this is all organized, spearheaded by Lincoln College's Dr. Julia Osler, and she is the new Life and Earth Science professor there at the college. So, if you're looking for something fun to do and worthwhile, Saturday's the day.
Yes, we're glad to have Dr. Osler aboard. You know, Dr. Campbell was perhaps one of the most unique instructors I've ever known. I didn't have him, of course, many times years ago. But
have you people met him?
Yeah,
yep.
He is just wonderful.
Oh my, he's so enthused, and he's everybody's professor. He should be. Anybody who goes into sciences should have a Dr. Campbell in their history somewhere along the line. So he's been a real shaker and a mover. This was his baby, but Dr. Osler's got this big project, and then so thanks to her. Also, Judith K., I'm going to receive from a friend Joette Ransom down the Elkhart. You know, they're awful busy down there. They do a lot of things.
Yes, they do.
And the Elkhart folks there at the not the Talk of the Town.
No, at the Horse Feathers and Wild Hair.
Yeah, get your back straight.
Across the street.
Yeah. The first talk they're having is sold out on November the 4th. So isn't that great? And they're going to have a second one, the same subject matter, but Joette would take reservations at 899-2238. And the gentleman's going to be there is a veterinarian. He's going to give a talk. He's very, very immersed in the history, and he's quite a horseman himself. And as a matter of fact, it was his group that's provided the horse for Daniel Day-Lewis's appearance in the Lincoln movie. So he's a reenactor and an on-site veterinarian, and it'll be a very, very interesting program. And you're going to talk about the perils of winter, taken out of Judge Lewis B. Stringer's Logan County history. So kudos to those folks down there. Now, Judith K., we ought to get real serious and introduce our guest, because
it's pretty serious. In fact, I don't think everybody in the world knows how serious it got. I think that there is blame to be laid for my having confused these dear people. And I think it's me. You can tell I'm not a politician, right? I will accept responsibility for the mix-up. We're going to send her away
for the cure next week, Jim.
Yeah, I think it's time. We've moved you around because of our alternate guest having a difficult time with scheduling, and here you are, and we're so grateful.
Well, you can count on us anytime, Judy, to show up.
How come you're so nice? Do you ever get sick of being so sweet?
He's a nice guy.
Right.
He is a nice guy.
Yeah, I think we've thought it over, Marsha. We're going to keep him.
Yeah. District 27 is fortunate to have the both of you, I dare say. With us today are Kent Froebe, the superintendent of Lincoln Elementary School District 27, and Marsha Dallas, and she is the curriculum coordinator. And we hear one thing and the next about education on the news, and some I think, oh, well, how about that? And some I think, oh, how about that? You know, and I'm sure you feel the same reaction when you hear these things. Now, Common Core has, for instance, been very controversial. And it spins off then into other side issues. Now they talked about, well, maybe Common Core wasn't the best idea in the world after all. So let's address what is Common Core. Oh, Kent, tell us why she's the coordinator of curriculum.
Let me give a brief background of we hired Marsha Dallas back in 1961.
Yeah, close. 81.
1981. It's been
give or take 20 years. Yeah.
1981 as our gifted coordinator and curriculum coordinator. She held both those. Well, gifted and teacher, actually, at the time, correct?
Just gifted program at the time.
Yeah, the gifted. I remember that.
In 2000.
In 61 or 81.
Yeah. In 2003, she became our gifted and curriculum coordinator, and then in 2008, she took over as full-time. Dr. Hillen approached her and wanted her to take over the full-time curriculum coordinator position. And this past spring, after 38 years in education, Marsha decided to retire 34 of those years in District 27. Very thankful that she decided to help us out, and we hired her back as our part-time curriculum coordinator. She's done a fabulous job for the district. She oversees our mentoring program. She leads out grade level meetings with all of our various grade levels, which can be challenging when you have different elementary buildings, bringing them all together, making sure that the instruction is very similar at all grade levels. And then also helping with our early releases and Teacher Institute days. And so we're very fortunate to have Marsha on board, and we kind of talked her into sticking it out after retiring, and hopefully she'll stay on for a few more years. So, but yes, she's here to answer some curriculum questions. I'll kind of jump back and forth, jump in when I can. But I know Common Core is something you asked me about a few times when I run into you in the community. So, Marsha, you want to give your perspective on Common Core?
Sure. Actually, Common Core standards have come into their own between 2000 and 2002, and in Illinois, they were adopted as Illinois Learning Standards. And my suggestion to anyone that has questions about what they say or don't say would be to go to the Illinois State Board of Education website and actually read through the standards. I don't think they're as scary and upsetting as some people have tended to make it. Unfortunately, it's become a political situation.
Absolutely.
And
things do.
I think that there's benefit to the standards.
Do you really?
Yes.
Mrs. Dallas, what is the genesis of Common Core? Who sat around one evening over an extra beer and thought that up?
Actually, it was a group of state governors. It was not the federal government. It was a group of state governors who were meeting and decided that because students, our society is so mobile and students are moving between states, that it would make sense to have some common progression so that when they move across state lines, they're not behind or ahead of the other classmates.
That makes sense.
But what happened to 2 plus 2? You know, that's about as basic as it gets. And now you see, all of us who are on the fringe, and we look at these tests that they put out for youngsters, and you think, how in the hell thought that up?
All right, so you're getting right to the
That's what I
nitty-gritty
wanted to
of
zero
this.
in on that.
I'd be happy to share these.
I brought you some sample questions.
Thank you.
For math, because math seems to be the area where most people are the most upset.
Yeah.
And
You
let
could
me
tell by Bill's
preface-
question, huh?
Yeah. Let me preface this by saying we're still teaching basic facts. We're still teaching the algorithm of subtraction, which is the rote way of doing it. But before we move to that algorithm, we're trying to teach some understanding of numbers, like a flexibility with numbers, so that if I said, Bill, how many ways can you make 7? We can make 3 plus 4, 5 plus 2, 2 plus 5. A lot of kids don't have that flexibility when it's just memorized. So we're trying to build strategies to help kids have an understanding of numbers. So, for example, in subtraction, a lot of kids, all of us in the room, learn to subtract by, if it didn't subtract, you cross it all off and borrow from the neighbor.
Yeah.
So what we see is if kids don't understand why they're doing that, you get what one teacher called whackers, which kids just go through and start marking and carrying over without any understanding of why they might or might not need to do that. So I feel it's a good approach to try to build some understanding and flexibility with numbers before moving to that rote algorithm. Or the rote
Just the
way of doing
memorization
it.
of. Right.
But you know, when I was tutoring at Washington Monroe, I had students who came up with the answers to things in very unique ways.
Yes.
One kid kept looking at the clock, and I said, "Why are you watching the clock?" Well, he had somehow found that he could do his math by the numbers on the clock, which of course completely, I'm not teasing you, Bill, which completely escaped me, for instance.
Well, that is kind of like this problem. Another sample I brought is using the number line for computation. And
Well, that's why I told him I
talking
don't want
about
to
a
mess
lapsed
with any
time,
math.
But what we do, we teach our students a lot of strategies so that when they come to a problem they don't understand, they can draw out a strategy, and it could be using a number line, it could be...
Which in that instance, he was using the clock.
Right, he was using the clock as a number line.
Right.
You know, I'm just beginning to get a little glimmer that maybe there is some common sense behind Common Core. It's a very slight glimmer, I will admit that.
Okay.
But you're open-minded, aren't you?
You used the operative word there, mind, and there was a problem.
So let's just look at one of these. These
Yeah,
are
okay,
third
Marsha.
grade problems. The one at the bottom gives you an example of what I say is building some flexibility.
Is this the one with the bridges or the horses?
The little horse on the top.
Okay.
That's question
A school
4.
computer could cost between $2,950 and $3,055. Give 3 possible prices for the computer. So instead of saying there's one right answer, there's many choices that would work, but in order to answer that question, you have to know your place value. You have to know what numbers come between 2,900 and 3,000. So
You're lost.
No, I was not. No, I follow that.
Yeah.
But it just is amazing to me.
it's hard for us as adults to
Yeah.
go back to the strategy work because we just have that rote, way of doing it, so it's hard for us to go back and
Memorizing
rethink.
facts, yeah.
Yeah, nothing worse than an old timer sot in his ways.
Well, yeah,
Or
and you
her
know,
ways, as the case
not
may be.
only what we learned when we were in school, but then in my many years of helping with homework at home, the baby's 53, and this has all come about since then, you know?
Right.
But you might remember, Judy, back, because I know this happened when I was in school, and I'm not much older than since, we had the new math. New
Yes.
math came in when I was in junior high, and I remember my parents being very upset by, like, we don't know what to do with this. So I just think...
Well, that becomes, for those parents who are interested, and I emphasize that, who are interested in helping your youngsters. Unfortunately, not every parent is. That's the way it goes.
That's
But
another
for those
question.
people who are really wanting to help, not comprehending what this new method is all about, it's very difficult for them, and perhaps they're messing up the kids more than helping them.
Well, what I've said to my teachers for the last 2 to 3 years is to be careful and thoughtful about the homework that you do send home, and have it be reinforcing the things you're working on in school, but maybe not necessarily that strategy work, because it is confusing to parents. We also have some math videos that I know at the junior high, one of the teachers is putting those out to parents to help them understand the process of the math.
And I think with homework too, it's important that to touch upon what she said, that it reinforces, some of the lesson of the day. And I value homework, but sometimes, and I struggle with it when my kids come home with something that possibly they haven't learned yet, and then they're trying to learn it on the fly, or I'm trying to teach it to them.
Yes.
I think homework's important if it's going to reinforce what they learned for the day, maybe practice some skill that they learned, and then...
mentioned the magic
Would it
word
be
there.
okay if I veered off here a minute?
You're half owner of the show.
I tell you, that's an issue to me, because now there is a thought that maybe we shouldn't have homework anymore because it stresses the children. Well, give me a break. Life is stress. I mean, you're not going to get any younger. You might as well learn it then, And that they think it doesn't do any good. It's just work. They should be instead concentrating on having a little fun and family time, which I think is in many homes a thing of the past anyway. They don't even eat supper together. Well,
that's-
what about homework? Does it matter?
Well, I think we've talked with our teachers about being cautious about the amount and the time that homework will take, because we realize we have families that don't have that time where they just sit and allot it
We
to
have
homework.
fractured families, unfortunately,
Yes.
and that's
we
the
have a
sad
lot of
thing.
parents that work nights, and they may have a babysitter or someone else, older sibling, caring for them.
Is it conceivable to assign a given time, like 45 minutes or an hour? Is that a doable thing as far as homework is concerned?
Well, that's always going to vary by the individual
Sure.
child.
But doesn't it teach the child responsibility? That you are responsible for getting this done so that you can bring it back to your teacher tomorrow?
Well, I think there's some value in that as far as, I would say, 4th, 5th, 6th grade, but what about primary age children? It's a
And I
little
think that
much.
working at the junior high for a number of years, we always valued homework. And like I said, if it's a reinforcement of a lesson, and it does prepare, let's be honest, when they go to high school, they're going to come home with homework. And so it does teach some skills, some study habit skills.
Which are
and then
very
the high school
important.
prepares you for college. And in college, you're going to have homework. And so, and need to learn those important skills of responsibility. But like Marsha said, more at the upper grade, your 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, that's where we really focus on, making sure that they have something that reinforces the lesson, and
Right.
they have
The
something that
greatest
goes home
example
with
of
them.
homework I can possibly think of, it goes back to my high school days. We had a kid by the name of Foster Lauber. He's gone now, unfortunately. He took his homework at noon. And those are the days we went home for lunch. No such thing as busing and all that business. He only lived a block from school. He took his books home at noon. All right, where'd that lead him? It led him to be the valedictorian of our class, and an honors graduate of the United States Military Academy. And later in career life, he was commander of what was then known as Guantanamo Bay, not Gitmo. It was a naval air base, naval station, not an air base, naval station. Anyway, the boy worked his bottom off all through high school. He's a bright boy, but he honed those skills anyway. But speaking of honing, if we don't hone in on a commercial or two, we're going to be in deep trouble here. So right ahead, Mr. Ash. Star Spangled Banner. Right back live in the studios of WLCN, the program is Viewpoint. We have our guests this morning, Marsha Dallas and Mr. Kent Froebe at Lincoln Community District number 27, Elementary District. Should make a quick remark that we deferred our conversation with Mr. Rashish Lahood, Freudian slip there. Rashish Huda, who is walking from Chicago to St. Louis, or to Los Angeles on old 66. Rashish had a death in his family, and he's in Houston, Texas. We'll pick up with him next week for the benefit of Kent and Marsha. This is a gentleman I met several weeks ago now in the IGA store, and he was on the road. You could tell it. And we struck up a conversation, and since then we've kept in touch with him. And each Wednesday morning we find out where he is. He's currently in western Oklahoma.
Interesting.
It's quite a
and he was passing through, and you ran into him at IGA.
Just happened, and I struck a conversation. I'll talk to a post. Well, I like it that way because I command the conversation. But we had a nice little conversation, and I had the idea that we'd kind of follow him on his route. So he's currently in western Oklahoma, but right now he left there and took a bus and went to Houston, Texas to have a death in his family. So he'll be back on the road very soon. So, Rashish, we'll look forward to having you back here. Now, Mrs. Busby, go right ahead, please.
Well, we're going to get back to where I so rudely interrupted you on the testing business. And there's a park assessment, Marsha.
Yes. We're one of approximately 12 states that take park. And a test is required by the federal government for the state to be reimbursed for many of their programs. And so we are required to test 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students in math and in reading each year.
And which takes place typically in the spring.
Yes.
Right.
Soon.
Yes.
Oh.
So the way time goes.
The way time goes, yeah. Yep.
The difference I've seen in the tests over the years of my teaching is that prior tests were always focused on facts and content. And so when people say teachers would teach to the test, that was more, that was possible in those days because you were teaching facts and specific content in those areas. But now the park test, what I've seen by monitoring the testing, is a lot more thoughtful and based on your creative thinking and your written expression or your written response to the questions. It causes students to analyze 2 passages of literature and write comparisons of those passages, or analyze a math problem situation, come up with the equation, and write why you did it that way, what your answer was. So it's a more thoughtful test. I don't agree with testing every level, but that's the process we're under right now, the guidelines.
But that sounds like such a good idea. To make them think more deeply about, other than just 2 and 2 is 4.
Right.
To delve into things.
And the tests are online. And the first year or 2 that we were giving the test, we actually gave a field test before it became required. And the students were very motivated to work on the computer and to be able to type right on the computer. So I found it to be pretty motivating for the students, and they would work hard on the test.
I think there definitely seemed to be more engagement. The students seemed to be more engaged by, instead of doing the old paper pencil, to be online and answering the questions on the laptops or on the computer. I think that
I'm sure that
it went over pretty well with our
a lot of them
kids.
deal with that at home as well, you know.
Right.
And this is just the era of computers. Do you want to move into that a little bit, Kent?
Yes, we're very excited to be provided. We provided all of our teachers at the start of the year, so we have just roughly 100 teachers, and we provided a Chromebook to each of the teachers. We've started providing training. We have a technology coordinator, Barb Coffey, who is excellent, and she's worked with Marsha to kind of spearhead our training. And we're looking. We rolled out. We're going to do one-to-one initiative of Chromebooks, one-to-one being, each student has a Chromebook that they'll be able to take home with them. And this year we rolled it out with our 6th grade students, and then those students will keep those laptops all the way through junior high, and each incoming 6th grade class will roll out and give them a laptop or a Chromebook. And so far it's been going very well. I'll let Marsha speak a little bit to
I think it's exciting, and I think it brings our teachers to a new way of engaging their students. And what we found is the teachers were actually pushing Barb to allow students to take them home sooner than we anticipated, and the students were obviously excited about being able to take it home. So one thing that changes the way homework looks is that with the Google Chrome, you can be working on a document or a slide presentation with other students in your class, and you don't have to be physically present with each other.
Oh.
You can all be working on the same document. You can see who's adding what notes. And then the other nice thing about it is the teacher can also be seeing the document while it's in progress and can make comments to students, so that it's not, you turn it in and get a grade and then you see your comments. You're seeing the comments all along so that you can improve your project.
And it's a little tougher to lose your homework too, or the dog can't eat your homework when it's on.
Yeah.
You have a sick dog.
Question: the teachers and the students are in direct connection then, and Teacher Dallas can communicate with
Yes.
Mr. Froebe's son?
So you could be. I'm not saying the teachers are sitting on there all night looking at what kids are
understand
doing, but they can check in and they can look over if you're doing an essay and you're writing your essay, and maybe they want to highlight a portion and say, try to reword this or look for your punctuation in this paragraph. They can make comments right on that document so that the next time the student logs in and looks at it, oh, I need to correct that.
That's interesting.
And I must say, our 6th grade teachers and the administration have been phenomenal in moving us in this direction. We also have Mrs. Coffey put together a technology committee for the district, which includes teachers at the elementary and the 6th grade teachers, and they've kind of done the trainer of trainers method of where they're training the teachers at our Institute days, and so our last October Institute went very well. We had some breakout sessions, and we had this technology committee training the staff on moving forward using the Chromebooks. And
I think one great thing about the training, Kent, is that we try to offer it at excuse me, various levels, so that if you're a person that's a little bit leery of technology or you haven't done a lot with computers, you can start at the very basic level of learning how to work these programs, but if you're more advanced, you can work at an advanced level. So we're modeling for teachers. This is how we differentiate for our students.
It's just amazing.
And one thing, like I told the teachers at the Institute Day, we've got to remember that we're preparing our students for their future and not our past. And so I think that even I get caught up sometimes on, I didn't learn math that way, why are we teaching it this way? And we've got to develop our 21st century learners for jobs that, we aren't even aware of yet.
That's right. That's exactly
Test scores. How are we doing as District 27 versus the state of Illinois?
We feel good about our test scores. I think last year we were at or above the state average in almost every level, every grade level, every subject. So we're very pleased with that. I think we're holding our own. But as I said to the teachers last spring, we can't just fall back and rely on that, because obviously all the schools in the state are working to improve. So I think the averages are going to keep going up.
Sure. You know, this park assessment sounds like such a good idea. I can't imagine why only 12 states are participating. Is that all that were invited, or what?
No. All the states were invited, but there were 2 different consortium for testing. So there's one called Smarter Balance, and that has some of the states. I'm not sure the number. Then the park group, which was set up, had the other 12, and then some states decided to write their own tests, which the federal government would allow. But with Illinois being strapped financially, they couldn't afford to do that.
You mentioned, Mr. Froebe, the Chromebooks, not inexpensive. Are you able to get that?
And I'm glad that you brought that up, Bill, because I do want to make mention that all the Chromebooks were purchased with grant money and not tax dollars for the community that's strapped, the citizens of the community.
Dollars, that's
and I think so too. I think it is a wise investment for our kids, but at this first initial push, all of it has been funded through grants. And
now, you didn't just get that grant. It just didn't say, well, we're going to get a grant from somewhere. Somebody has to make an application for that. So who does the grant application writing?
Like I said, our technology coordinator, Mrs. Coffey, has been very, helpful in that process. Colleen Jadlowski, our CFO for the district, has been, very helpful as well in that process, and they do an excellent job of, making sure that we're getting money in for the Chromebooks.
Well, that's an art, that grant writing.
It can be, especially with some of them. They take a long time, and then you'll hear back that you need to, do a couple more hours of work on it, and it's just an ongoing process. But the feeling when you do receive the money is obviously a good feeling.
Well, you're lightning ahead of other districts who don't have that foresight and aren't looking ahead, and so it's just a real joy for me to see that sort of dedication. Of course, that's what we do in District 27 down through the years.
I think that goes back to Les Plotner when he first started the computer labs in the buildings. And Bill, you might have been on the school board at that time. Very, insightful into what the future needs would be for the students.
Mm-hmm.
We are really, you and I brag a little bit about our communities here, folks in the courthouse, so forth. But we are lucky in District 27 to have the dedication that we've had down through the years. The board members who've served, who have had dedication in mind with no other alternatives, no objectives except to serve their kids. And we have dedicated teachers, administration, and it's sure inures to the benefit of our youngsters.
And same today, our board, I know you served on the board for a number of years, but we're very fortunate to have a great board. Yes, with people who are on there for the right reasons and care about the kids and the district and the community. And
anybody
and we're very
who would
fortunate.
Want to serve on a school board for a wrong reason would be in the wrong position, because there's nothing they can. Maybe they could get an old school book or something, but there's not much graft and payola going on there.
But it's a lot of time, and it's kind of a thankless job. You know, you're not getting reimbursed for coming to meetings or anything like that, and so we're very fortunate.
Well, whose idea was it to bring Mrs. Dallas out of retirement?
I kind of twisted her arm a little bit.
Good for you. I was getting to that, and so I'll symbolically tip my hat to you for that idea.
I told Kent we'd hang around if he might get sick of me, I might get sick of him. We'll see how it goes.
That's not likely. As the administrator, sir, what is your money? Of course, that's the obvious answer, the first answer. But money aside, what's your most important problem, sir?
I think that kind of what we've talked about today is making sure that we're moving our students forward and preparing students for future jobs and for making sure that they're ready for high school, and just the curriculum changes and making sure that all of our students are getting what they need to be successful in the classroom. And so I think that, go ahead, Judy.
It just sounds so daunting to me. I can't imagine what the future holds, because it's just going head over heels as fast as it can. Everything is moving at such a rate. that you've got an awful job ahead of you to prepare these kids for a world that's coming that sounds to me like it's going to be pretty scary.
Well, go ahead.
I was thinking about the changes I've seen over my career, but the one thing that hasn't changed is kids are there and usually want to learn, and they want a relationship with the adults in their life.
And we have wonderful adults. We have excellent teachers and aides and cooks, janitors, all the way down. And we've got great people working in our buildings.
I experienced that when I would go to Northwest to pick up a great-granddaughter for several years. She's now out of the district. And you just read into their teachers' reactions with the youngsters that they're interested. And of course, that's the ball game. Now, Mrs. Dallas, and you're not in the classroom teaching atmosphere anymore. At the time you were actively in classrooms, what was one of your most pressing problems?
I was fortunate to work with largely the gifted students, but before that I did teach 3rd and 4th grade, and I'd say a lot of times it was trying to develop some parent relationships or having the parents become involved in what we were doing at school and being interested in it.
That's the thing that I think today is pretty prevalent throughout the entire elementary grade system, countrywide. Socioeconomic problems with families fractured, kids going home to one parent or really perhaps a grandparent, no jurisdiction, no interest, and it's so much different than maybe back in the 30s when I was in school, and we didn't have it. We didn't understand that a family was a family for the most part, and for a teacher to work with a youngster who comes to school maybe a little bit hungry. Of course, that's changed now with the nutrition programs we have in our schools, but it's just got to be a real challenge for a teacher in today's times.
Anything, Marsha, that you want to? I know that we're running out of time here.
But
are the kids more motivated now, do you think, Marsha, than when you were teaching just the regular 3rd and 4th graders?
I really feel like the kids are basically the same. I mean, you're going to have some kids that are troubled. You're going to have some kids that are highly motivated. So I feel like kids haven't changed all that much.
Well, we live in a society that's very broad and diversified. That's bound to be the case.
What about the Civil War walk? Do you want to talk briefly about that?
Before we close, let's mention and give a kudos to our 5th grade teachers who've developed a project in collaboration with Lincoln College with the Lincoln Heritage Museum. And in March, next year it will be March 10th, they produce a Civil War walk where the students have done research and written scripts or monologues about a person from the Civil War era. And they dress in costume and deliver monologues for their parents, grandparents, and anyone that happens to be wandering through the museum at the time.
Oh, so how neat.
It's a very neat program.
Is it going on to its 3rd year?
This will be the 3rd year.
Okay.
And we, as teachers, we always try to find that authentic audience for kids, and this is just a wonderful project to link kids to a performance-based, and we even have one teacher that does the Virginia Reel at the end of her class participating.
How did the kids feel about that?
They love it.
Oh, I bet. That's a great museum.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Yes.
It's wonderful.
Oh,
and anyone that hasn't had a chance to see it should go.
Is missing something, for sure.
Well, we appreciate very much the emphasis on this morning has been education. We appreciate the appearance of Marsha Dallas and Mr. Kent Froebe. Marsha is doing a great job coming out of retirement for us, which we appreciate. And seems retirement is awful young to be retired.
Yeah.
Kent Froebe, our district administrator, District 27. We like to have you back often. It's we like to keep our listeners informed of what's going on in our school system because it's the most important thing we've got right now.
It's hard to say no to Judy, so if she keeps calling, I'll just keep showing up.
Bless your heart.
Well, it's getting close to election time, and we will close with a comment that I think just about this particular year, 2016, would apply as well as it ever has in my nearly 93 years. There is only one redeeming thing about this whole election. It will be over. And let everybody pray that it's not a tie. For we sure couldn't go through this thing again. Thank you for Viewpoint. Thank you, Kent Marsha.